Hello, I'm Mark Williams, and earlier in 2021, Gethin Ellis and myself started the Fit Podcast. Here at gethinellis.com and Wide End Limited, we know that whilst physical fitness is essential, our mental health is vital too, and our Fit Podcast is all about putting the human back into technology, aka fit. Building on us all coping during unprecedented times in Series 1. Available on our website, www.gethinellis.com, and YouTube, search for Gethin Ellis. We felt in Series 2 it might help us all to hear more thoughts and advice from normal, everyday humans just like you. So we're again speaking with a range of humans in technology, business, consulting and other areas to hear what they've learned and how they intend to apply that experience in dealing with today's challenges and their futures. So here we are, we're back with part 2 with Jane Logie. We had a very, very interesting conversation in part 1. Quite a lot of old war stories between Jane and myself that we were talking about in one sort of thing or another. And so welcome back, Jane.
Thank you.
So you live in this world transformation, and you do this big strategic stuff, here. So this might be an odd question to ask you, but do you think that most organisations, I'll give you a definition in a second, that need to really transform, and that to me means they need to do something completely different to what they've been doing before, or do it in a completely different way, or something along those sorts of lines. But you might put me right on what the definition of this is by all means. But do you think they need to transform, or do you think it's more about continuing improvement? And obviously, I'm looking for whatever you feel on that range of activities.
I think the whole question about the definition of transformation is quite interesting. I've heard many different definitions, and I've seen many things described as transformation that just aren't. But as I said at the beginning, transformation for me, it's about doing really big things. It's about creating new value streams, entering new markets, creating new business models. It's not incremental improvement, which is why it's hard to do, because essentially, you're taking your business that you've built over many years and you are doing things to it in material ways. It's not for the faint of heart. The business that you end up with might feel and look very different to the business you've grown to love over the 10, 15, 20 years that you've led it or been part of it. It's not for me, though, these days about some big monolithic program, that's running over 5 years, that goes away into a dark room and then 55 months later goes, ta-da! And everyone goes, oh, but we don't need that anymore because the world has changed. It's not about that. So transformation is the big things. But when you talk about continual improvement, I think transformation, I can translate that a little bit into incremental improvement. So I do think that transformation done well does try to package up work into chunks of value that can be delivered incrementally.
Right.
So that businesses start to get some value, but also confidence can be built in the transformation program itself. So transformation for me is that big thing. It's not a continuous improvement type activity. It's definitely something that needs to be treated differently. On the other hand, continuous improvement is for me about improving everything every day in every way. And of course, over time, it can have a massive positive impact on the company. I'm a lean practitioner. I got my qualifications through the Lean Research Excellence Centre in Cardiff.
Oh, did you? Okay, I know them.
Yeah, and I've led business improvement activities.
Look, I think they used to be called, didn't they? Look, wasn't it? Look, that was the name of it? Yeah.
And look, yes. And, I know what a positive impact it can have, in particular on the culture of the organisation, because people feel more engaged. They have the opportunity to contribute and to make a personal difference. And at the end of the day, I believe that we all come to work wanting to, feel we're part of something and that we're able to make a difference. So they both have their parts to play. And even in the world of transformation, I think from a program perspective, you should be operating a continuous improvement cycle anyway, because, programs that are self-examining and that look at what has worked and what hasn't and course correct and improve, they have a better track record of successful delivery. So I think transformation and continuous improvement are quite different. They're both completely valuable. They have their part to play, and in some cases they can, to a degree, run alongside each other and in conjunction with each other. That's about it on that, I think.
I think one of the things that drives me nuts personally, to be honest, is most business people, quite understandably and quite correctly, don't understand the difference between a project and a program, and and so on and so forth. But what does drive me nuts is whatever terminology you use to describe something that you're trying to do. If you're basically saying something along the lines of, right, well, we've got this vision of trying to get to this point, then by definition, you don't really know all the details of what you need to do to build and test and deliver against that vision, and you probably don't really know how much money you're going to spend, and you probably, even though you want to get there at a certain point in time, you probably still don't know actually what point in time you're going to be able to get there. And the thing that drives me nuts is when you get that group of executives or group of shall we say non-exec board advisor type people who say, yeah, but you said you were going to spend £5 million and have it done in 12 months. Yes, but your aim was this, that, and the other over here, and we didn't know how we were going to deliver. Yeah, but that's not what you said. Well, no. Firstly, I didn't say that because you brought me in to fix this. Is the first thing I say. But do you know what I mean by that sort of thing?
Yeah. So I completely recognise what you're talking about, and I think that it's really hard. I think that because of the types of money that we're talking about, investing. When you look at the sign-off and authority limits within the organisations, often you don't have to spend many millions at all before you end up at the group board.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to go there on a wing and a prayer. They want to go there with something that they can feel confident about and they can sell to the board, and I worry for executives, when they're going to the board in the very early days. We're trying to sell a case for change and talking about numbers, because I've literally seen board members laminate things. You told me 3.5 years ago before you started that it would take you 28 months to do this and it would cost, £9.7 million, which was very interesting because, when you think back to the actual scenario, I think there was a range and the date was far less assured than that. So I worry for boards. I worry for executive sponsors taking cases for change to those sessions. And I think, part of our job, as independent consultants and advisors is to help those sponsors ensure that they are not setting themselves and the company up for failure. They're setting themselves and the company up for success. And that means, talking in broad ranges, talking in broad numbers, maybe not trying to say, this is how much it will cost, maybe having a conversation that says, well, to achieve that outcome, what would you invest? That's a very different question, isn't it? And certainly one that we used as an approach in a client I worked with. We said, we are not at the point yet to be able to do a bottom-up estimate of everything that's in this programme to arrive at a cost, but we know broadly what this strategy could deliver in terms of benefit, based on your, internal rates of return, your attitude to investment risk. What are you prepared to invest over what period? And they gave us a number over a period of time. And then we said, right, so now we know the constraints that the programme's got to operate in. And what we need to try and do is get you to that number or past it, ideally for less.
Yeah.
So I think we have a job, and I don't know what your opinion would be on this, but I think part of the job we do is to advise boards and advise sponsors and try and help them to navigate that whole, desire for.
I think. So to answer your question, people listening might say, "Well, you would say this, wouldn't you? Because you do program and project leadership kind of thing." But genuinely, I think anybody that is broadly doing the sorts of things that we're doing at whatever markets and whatever disciplines and so on that they're doing it in. Frankly, I think we have a responsibility, to say it how we see it. We have that relationship between the sponsor and the lead person, whatever that lead person is called, and their advisor is really important, and that needs to be open and honest. And I guess for me, I use the word clarity a lot when I'm talking with organisations, and for me, clarity isn't certainty. It's not the same thing. Clarity is, we are taking a risk here. You do realise we're taking a risk here for these reasons. Yes, that's fine. Or at the other end of the spectrum, actually, this is going to go in on that time because I know damn well that it will, and I'm doing it fine. And I think a lot of it comes down to that, and helping those that. We've been talking essentially about the sort of the layman advisors to boards here who are not change or technology specialists, and I'm not knocking them for that. That's just a fact that they're not. They're like in the same way that we're not, I don't know, finance directors or whatever. But I think we do have a responsibility to advise and help, and it also drives me nuts when. I know you're not like this, and I hope I'm not like this. When people in our positions, kind of sit back and go, well, I'm just, offering some advice, and they're not. Even though we're not actually putting skin in the game, we need to. We need to get that emotional involvement, if you like, with them. Otherwise, we're not helping them.
You've got to stand up and be counted and be willing to make a commitment. But I think, I'm with you. I think being clear about what the underlying assumptions are, why you've taken a position that you've taken in terms of perhaps ranges and timescale ranges that you've given, providing them, if required, with the tests that would need to be true in order to achieve a more refined cost and time. Yeah. I think, again, it's definitely not sort of sitting back and going, can't tell you about that. You really shouldn't be asking that question right now. That's definitely not the approach I'm advocating. The approach I'm advocating is very much in line with yours, which is, this is what we can tell you now. This is on what basis we have arrived at that view. This is what would need to be true to arrive at the next level of refinement. And everybody going into something, making a decision, knowing that not everything is available yet is really important, because I'm not convinced that most boards, when they're asked to sign off business cases, significant investments, I'm not convinced that they are made aware of the level of certainty of that investment. I think if they were, they'd be surprised. I think very often cases do go to those bodies in very early stages before even, the totality of the change is understood to achieve the strategic outcome. And I think then they're surprised when, the program team comes back and, with a restated business case, with a restated set of costs, and says to them, but of course, when we gave it to you last time, it was a low level of confidence. It was a very high range. And they go, was it? But I think that's our responsibility, isn't it? It's.
I think it is. And a bit like earlier when you said something along the lines of, but I feel for people in this area. I think there is there's a counter to that position, which is that, frankly, if you how can I say this, how I feel about it, if you always waited, or rather if you told, now this is what I want to say, if you told them what the situation really was, and I'm not saying I I'm advocating this, I'm not, but I can absolutely see that for some, if they told them what the situation really was, maybe they weren't very confident at all, nothing would ever get done, because everybody would sit back and say, well, I can't do that. And so somewhere there's a balance.
I think there's a sweet spot, though, and I'm an absolute believer that, kind of really the first case for change, for transformation, should be some seed funding to get you to a point of clarity, to get you a point of certainty, rather than going in and trying to get the board to sign off, the whole bill up front before you've done sufficient work. It just doesn't make sense for me. You're going to disappoint somebody somewhere if you do it that way. So I think there's a sweet spot, Mark. Yeah. I really do. But I think that's our job, because I was chatting to somebody the other day about sponsorship, which is another topic I'm fascinated by, and they were saying, sponsors aren't doing this and sponsors. And I said, yeah, but that's our job. We've been change professionals. We've been doing this job for 30 years. We know what good sponsorship's about, and we should help people to be good sponsors. We should help our key stakeholders. That's our job. We shouldn't criticize them. We should coach them and mentor them. And I got very much a pushback from that, saying, but no, that's not your job. And I was like, well, my job is doing anything it takes to deliver the business value for my program.
Absolutely right. I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, sponsorship is we were chatting on the back and forth on the commentary of the book. Sponsorship is the thing that I'm working on with a couple of people at the moment. I'm probably not going to end up doing a book. I think probably more a series of videos of just bite-sized videos and things. I did a guide actually earlier this year I co-wrote it with a software supplier because they wanted something to help not-for-profit sponsors find their way in things. And I go back to what I said, really, that relationship between the sponsor and the lead person, whatever that person is called, is really important. And it's a two-way street. The best ones work where you learn something from each other, and where either party is willing to say, thanks for that, I needed that, or I got that wrong, or yeah, great, we'll do this together, and that works well. When you've got distance, either because the project manager, if you like, is going, I'm just a project manager, or the sponsor is going, that's your problem, that's when you see the friction. I want to move us on, because we're talking a lot about if you like, decision making in investment cases and things like that. And I think it's fair to say that one of those things that almost everyone will say in the business market is something along the lines of, right, we need to make more of the data that we've got, and we probably need to make more of the technology that we've got, and and so on and so forth, or we need to invest more in the technology. You and I have spoken. Yes, we've spoken a little bit about that in earlier and in part one. But we've also spoken a lot about the words you've used on a few occasions around the emotional side of things. That's very people-oriented type stuff. So, what's your thoughts on going forwards when organisations are trying to make either say something on the pilot side to prove a transformation program that might come out, or they're way beyond and they're doing that transformation program, or any project really, about how they should think about weighting decisions or weighting investment and asset between the sort of what people think they should be doing, which is data and technology, and what maybe they don't do enough of, which is people. I'm not trying to lead you to there much with that, because I know you'll have your own view.
So I always say, and if you talk to anyone who's worked with me, and you've worked with me in the past, so I always say technology's easy, people are hard. If all somebody wants to do is implement a piece of technology really well, you don't need me. You just need a really good project manager. If you want to change the hearts and the minds and the way that people feel about your business, you need a proper change professional. That's our job, isn't it? So of course, the technology solution has got to, from a technology perspective, be able to deal with the opportunity that's been created or the problem that you're trying to fix. But the people side of it is just far more important. I'll go back to my point about sell, not tell. And then I go back, I talk about things like, I think about things like the business case. If the business case, unless your business case is achieved by the implementation of the technology itself and does not require any human change, then you're okay to just focus on the tech. And I have been in situations like that. But in most cases, these big things are all about changing the way that we work, the way that we operate. And, I talk in my book a little bit about the mind and the brain and the neural network and the pathways that are created. Changing the human brain is a really tricky thing to do. So yes, I think get the tech right. That's just a hygiene factor. But people.
I'll say the same thing, but in a different way, because it's what I believe too, and it's no great surprise to you with that. I love my tech, but and yes, we could all get a bit focused on the implementation of the tech, which we have to have a little chat with ourselves about from time to time. But without mentioning the clients' names, you and referring to the question, they also we're gonna put Power BI in, and we're gonna make more better decisions based on the data that we've got. And I sit there and say, how? How are you going to do that? Are you going to create some new roles? Are you going to tell people what they need to think? I know. Sorry, you can't just say you're going to do that. Think about that. How you're going to do it? Yeah.
Oh, so right. So I know it's a thing right now to have a big data program going. Just about everyone I know's got one. They're either doing big data, creating data lakes, doing fancy stuff with AI, all sorts of interesting stuff. But, I'm like you, I'm more interested in what they're trying to achieve rather than what tech they want to put in, because I just believe that just having more bad data in more efficient repositories with more able tools gets you nothing.
Yeah.
It doesn't improve your organizational capability one iota. It comes down to the people that are using that data, the people that are guarding that data, the people that are creating that data, and that's all people, isn't it?
It absolutely is 100%. Right, so we're a couple of questions away, I guess, from the end of what has been a really very very interesting chat with Jane. So maybe you talked about putting something back with the book when you wrote it, and there's a shed load of advice in there. So I don't know whether you're going to pick something else or that. But what advice would you give either your younger self or maybe somebody starting out in their career? It doesn't matter whether they're in business or IT or change or whatever, or maybe they're changing their career. What one or two or three or four bits of advice would you give?
Sure, absolutely, yeah. So my first would be take every opportunity that's presented, and that sometimes means you have to do the job before you're paid for it.
Yeah.
So, don't be afraid to be accountable, take things on, give it a go. If you step up, and do the right things in the right ways and work hard and show dedication and commitment. I know it doesn't always work this way, but usually it will get recognised.
Yeah.
In companies, and success will come for you. So work hard as well. That's really important, don't be a laggard. And I wish I'd told myself this when I was younger, but celebrate more success, We work really hard, don't we? You put so much of yourself into the work you do, and everyone around you puts so much of their self into it. And I just think we could celebrate success more. And then the last thing is don't forget to have a life. Because I literally did spend 15 years in my early career where I didn't. I just worked. And, that's fine. I can't get it back now. But if I could speak to my younger self, I would give myself a bit of a talking to.
However, you live in a lovely part of the world, and we were coming back from West Wales actually weekend before last, and we went up from where I live in Chepstow. We went up through Llandovery and into Brecon and into Crickhowell. So we had a nice little lunch in the Bear. So you can always enjoy a nice little lunch in the Bear in Crickhowell. And there's a couple of other nice pubs as well in Crickhowell. I was actually very surprised as it's quite a vibrant place. It's really, really, it's been years since I've been there, and I thought, oh, okay.
Yeah, it won Village of the Year a couple of years ago. I mean, yeah, it's a really vibrant little sort of market town, very old-fashioned, no big chains, lots of locally owned businesses, massively supported by the community. Fabulous place. Just go visit it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you can enjoy that, Jane, for however long you want to. So let's bringing this to a close then.
Okay.
So tell us a fun fact about yourself. Well, whether anybody knows it or not. Hopefully, not many people know it.
This, but not many. So yeah, I bet you didn't. I bet you wouldn't have guessed this, but up until not so long ago, I used to run an online wargaming alliance. So I had 100 players across the globe in my wargaming alliance, and we used to fight other alliances.
And this is showing my complete ignorance now in this day and age. Were you in the Dungeon or the Dragon with that particular wargaming alliance?
Neither. And yes, so that's something that people perhaps wouldn't guess. But there again, in some respects, my husband said, actually, Jane, I'm not surprised you did that, because you kind of got to discuss war strategy and plot and plan and yeah.
Did it just? I mean, just serious question. You're right. I would not have got there in a million years. With that. Did it or does it help you switch off and distance yourself from the day job? Because that was a theme. Somebody else we had on in the first series basically said they were a scuba diving instructor, and because it was the only place when he was 100 feet down in a quarry that you could actually switch off from work.
Yeah, it absolutely does. So especially when, I'm doing intensive work away from home all week, it's just nice in the evenings, come 8 o'clock, switch off, do something completely different. And it clears the mind, you get to focus on something completely different, a completely different set of people, and then you can go back to work refreshed the next day. And by the way, scuba diving is excellent for clearing the mind. I do agree as well.
Well, we'll leave it there. Jane Logie has been with us on the Fit podcast. Thank you very much, Jane, and we'll pop a link to your book in the comments when this eventually comes out on the post. But it's been a thoroughly enjoyable 45 minutes or so chatting with you, and lovely to see you again.
Thank you, Mark. It's been absolutely brilliant.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you.